Hi friends, this is Fitness and Harmonies, Modify Your Practice. Hi, I'm Candace. Let's start out taking a seat on something like a blanket. Have blocks handy and a strap for today's practice. Today's going to be one of those beautiful practices where you get to just do anything that you want. And there's just those days where you come to practice and you're not on all cylinders. So we're going to modify our practice. We're going to learn the signs that you need to modify your practice. Come to a seat. If your legs fold like this, then let them fold like this. Years ago, we used to teach people to put your feet up onto your thighs. We don't do that anymore. Why? Because it wasn't good for the ligaments in your knees. So we learned to modify our practice. The signs are pain. Let's recross your legs a few times and then come to a settled position. Relax your shoulders down. Engage the lower abdomen. Draw up tall through the back of the spine, through the crown of the head. Gather your attention. Close your eyelids all the way down. Reside in this moment. Inhale through your nose. Exhale through your nose. Let's slow down. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Now begin to witness the anchor. Your hips, the bottom of your pelvis, your legs. All the while, keep the steady, persistent rhythm of the inhale, the exhale. Witness the anchor of your pelvis. Now tune in to the lightness of the heart, the throat, and the head. All the while, inhale, exhale. Notice the pull as the hips and the legs are anchored down. The heart, the throat, and the head are rising up. And you inhale and you exhale. Again, hips lowering down, heart, throat, head floating up. Now, keeping your eyes closed, I want you to take a moment to find your balance point. So if you shift right and left, forward and back, if you twist one shoulder or turn your head to one side, so begin to use your breath now to lubricate the joints. The outcome of your practice is really dictated by the structure and function of the joints. So I just said lubricate your joints. So now, inhale, exhale. Find your balance point. Physically, within your body, typically, it's around the center of your belly. For men, it's a little higher. For women, it's a little lower. Keep breathing in, anchoring down while lifting up. We're going to deconstruct the poses today so that we can modify based on your expectations and then your actions. If you expect your poses to be perfect and strong and powerful and perfect, how then does your mind interact with the reality of the outcome? Remember, your outcome is dictated by the stability and flexibility and the function around joints. 2 more breaths. I want to start out breathing So when somebody says to you, how are you? It's your breath that dictates that answer. Let's open the eyes. Let's come off of our block or bolster or blanket and stretch the legs out in front. So we're going to go through a little series of figuring out physically how you are. So we started out with the breath. So when I ask you, how are you? Or anybody asks you, it's your breath that answers that question. If your breath is tight and holding, you know you're not so good. I'm going to use these blocks so that my hands will always reach the floor. With the legs out in front, I want you to assess, like a postural assessment here, can your body make a letter L, 90 degrees that way and that way. If it can't, lean a little bit further back. If you have a couch or a chair, you can lean up against. If it can, try leaning a little forward. So loosen up the skin on the back of the legs. You might have to take that skin and pull it away from the bone a little. Once you get there, toes are flexed. The body can be either straight up, a little bit back, or a little bit forward, somewhere around there. What you're assessing is there pain, tingling, numbness, or breathing changes? So pain is really very obvious. But tingling, numbness, they come on usually a little bit later when we're in a more complicated pose, but tension in the muscle is usually evident. Now, make sure that the pelvic bowl is rocked in the direction of the spine. So the spine isn't crunched forward, nor is it extended backward. It's in the direction of the pelvic bowl. So hold, inhale. As you inhale, take in the waves of change. They're all around us right now. As you exhale, let those waves of change move through you, but stay anchored. So if you feel tension in the muscles, how would you modify this? For many of us, it would be to take the legs out wider, maybe keep the bend in the knee, or lean further back. It's just practice of training muscles to be strong and movable that protects and moves a joint, and eventually the joint then gains stability and flexibility. You can't just directly change a joint. Wish you could. You can change the muscles. Do 2 breaths here, modifying. I don't really like that word, but it's the best word of all the words I can use there. Just choose the position, the posture that allows you to reside in this moment without the pain, the tingling, the numbness, the shortness of breath, or that real muscular holding sensation. From here, we'll come down more to the back. I think that's good. Maybe lift the legs up. And then practice now turning the leg bones out and in. Now don't look at your lower legs. They're going to confuse you. They're going to seem like they're going in the wrong direction. So it's really from the knee to the hip. Think about that bone called the femur. Think about it twisting out and in. Your legs could be straight, and then your feet would, kind of do the thing you expect them to do. But if your knees are bent, it might confuse you. So just look at the knees to hips. Just practice twisting. Quite often, the imbalances that we have that prevent us from doing the yoga poses that look toward our expectations are because the joints have been compensating. So here's the quote. You ready for it? The BKS Iyengar quote. Owing to our faulty method of standing and not distributing our weight evenly on the feet, we acquire specific deformities. I always love Iyengar quotes because they're so true, but the words he uses are not the things we're used to hearing. Do 2 more like this, whatever that means. 2 more breaths, 2 more awareness movements, and then bring the feet down. Now swing the knees side to side. The knees and a little bit the hips. So what I just said, the joints, the outcome of the flexibility and stability and strength and health of the joints is dictated by how well the muscle is strong, and really the word is trained. Muscles don't have to be long and soft and flexible and pliable. That's really not necessary. They have to be trained well. So when you think about a gymnast, this is my best example. They have the same muscles we do. They have the same joints we do. Their muscles are just trained much better to support the joints in a bigger and usually more fluid range of motion. Do 3 slow breaths to seek neutral in the spine. So right now probably your spine is rocking left and right. Neutral in the spine means that the natural curves. Now, how do you know? You don't really know. You don't look like that anatomical chart, I can assure you, any more like you look like, let the knees and hips fall to one side and hold, any more than you look like, your favorite model. Now I want to encourage you to breathe more deeply and invite energy down into the lower 2 chakras, the root and the pelvic bowl. Remember before we were working on being anchored but light. Owing to the faulty method of standing and not distributing our weight evenly on the feet, we acquire specific deformities. So bringing the spine first of all into neutral means to honor those specific deformities. Let's switch knees and hips over to the other side. Remember, this is a breathing practice wrapped in movement. The overall purpose is unity. So everything you do should be moving towards unity. Even when I say anchor down to rise up, the overarching goal is unifying. Illuminate your expectations here. 3 breaths. One more. Come back to center. If you have a block, if you have a pillow, put that between the knees. I'm going to put it so that it's got a good amount of traction there, and just squeeze. Let's practice. I'm going to give you a little movement practice to do, but remember the goal today is modifying your practice. So what I want to do is illuminate and wake up muscles that maybe aren't participating in downward dog. Downward dog is sort of the apex pose today. Squeeze the block, squeeze the abdominals, lengthen the spine, draw the knees towards the chest, and then put the feet down. So that's sort of the choreography. Squeeze the block, squeeze the abdominals, lengthen the spine, draw the knees in, and put the legs down. Inhale. Exhale, squeeze, squeeze, lengthen, draw in. Inhale, down. Exhale, squeeze, squeeze, lengthen, draw in. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. So keep going. This is a really good practice on honoring and noticing where your mind goes when your actions are happening. So I just gave you a bunch of things to think about and you're still going through all the little pieces in your mind. Do that. Open up like a multi-part dialogue between your mind that's doing the action and the part of your mind that's receiving, like am I numb, am I tingling, am I in pain, those things, am I tensing? And then the mind that has the expectations, like I'm always successful, I have to be successful. 2 more times, that's my own personal little nuance, that's my own personal specific deformity. Now lift the knees up and hold, squeeze as you exhale, inhale as you kind of release. Squeeze as you exhale, inhale, release. Exhale to squeeze, inhale to relax. This is really waking up the lower chakras so that we can move around the hips and the pelvis. The hips, by the way, is the joint where the leg attaches into the pelvic bowl. That's the hip joint, by the way. A lot of times I'll use the term hips to mean those bones of the pelvic bowl. So not to confuse you, we're moving almost always around where the legs insert. That's almost always where you want to move, not the top rim of the pelvic bowl, unless I specifically ask you to wave the spine. 2 more times. Exhale, inhale. Exhale, release. Woo, let the knees fall open. Let's take this block. We're going to bring it in its long setting between the hands. Inhale the arms overhead. Exhale the arms down. Now specifically contract the abdominals so your low back arches, but it doesn't excessively arch. What is excessive? Well, you're feeling sort of a bend in the spine. It feels like your ribs are popping up. So when your arms go overhead, hold them overhead for a moment so I can say this. Your shoulder blades do go up. They don't stay pulled down. I'm always telling you pull your shoulder blades down. That's true. Unless your arms are up overhead. In that case, the shoulder blades do go up. What goes down is the muscular contraction around where the arm bone, otherwise known as humerus, attaches into the shoulder blade, into the end of the joint there. That's squeezing. But the shoulder blades are going up. Let's bring the arms so that they're right up over sort of the chest and do that same practice. Squeeze the block together. Exhale. Inhale, relax. Exhale, squeeze. Keep going. I want you to apply that same assessment. When you move, when you don't move, what muscles are you using? What muscles aren't you using? How are you? Remember, the answer to how are you is dictated by your breath. Your breath is going to tell you where there are tension points. Maybe you're one big block of tension. That happens all the time. What muscles should be contracting that aren't? What muscles should be relaxing that aren't? That's how you correct and deconstruct the pose and figure out how you should modify. If you can't, then you find some other practice, some other way of doing it. And then let's release. So make your way around and into child's pose. So rolling. Let's kind of do the same thing we just did. I'm going to grab the block. I'm into let's get the shoulders and arms right first. Grab the block. Now you can turn your hands out or use the inner thumb area. But just squeeze the block. I said child's pose. All right, remember a moment ago I said shoulder blades should be going up because your arms are overhead. It's always in relation to you, not the world. So pull the arm bones into the shoulder sockets, but lift the shoulder blades up. That's a really challenging nuance, but it's an important one for downward dog. We do a lot of downward dogs. So here are the pressure points, or however you want to say it. The trigger points, I guess. When we're on hands and knees, we protect essentially the wrist and the knees. Right? The things in contact with the ground are really a good way to think of it. When we're in downward dog, we protect the shoulders and the spine. It's never a bad idea. It's always a good idea to protect the spine. Inhale. So whenever you're in doubt, spine straight, hinge at hips. Maybe I should say that a few more times. 2, spine straight, hinge at hips. And then we'll come up. So grab that blanket, or here we have many props, and put it under your knees. So we're in hands and knees, but with the blanket under the knees. If you don't have a blanket, some of us don't, there's several ways you can just kind of flip or roll your mat. Here's another option. What you don't want to do is put a lot of excess things under your wrist. I've seen these things they sell. I'm not sure about that, but don't have a really thick mat under your wrist. No big, gigantic shag carpet under your wrists. But yes, under your knees. So there's something we can do to modify our practice. If those wrists still can't bear the weight of the body, because it's a weird thing to do, we don't walk on our hands, an option is to make fists with the palms facing each other and press the finger knuckles into the floor. There's another option. Neutral grip is the palm facing towards the inside. That still doesn't work, come down to the forearms. Not every pose can be done on the forearms, but some can. Let's all come down to the forearms and practice squeezing the elbows towards each other. Practice squeezing the abdominals. Practice keeping the spine straight. Remember, the head is usually part of the spine. Sometimes it hangs, but usually it doesn't. Spine straight, hinge at hips. So one of the things you can do to modify is stop completely. Another thing you can do to modify is only go halfway. Remember, we're squeezing the arms together here, and that should make the upper arm bone go outward. So here's a good example of when the shoulder blades are down the back because the arms are not all the way overhead. 3 breaths. Remember, the breath tells you how you are. 2. And 1. All right, let's come back up, if you can, to hands and knees. So we're about to move into another pose. And what I want you to try to do is figure out how much you're on your knees, how much you're on your hands. If you can't do either, then don't do either. There's a good way of looking at it. Take one leg and turn it kind of toward me, so foot goes out, and knee is now pointing in the side direction. Then take the other leg, spin the hip open, and stretch the top leg out. Give that a second to figure out. The knee on the floor, it's kind of twisted, and then this other leg. That's enough for now. Align this palm under its shoulder. We just worked on shoulder integration. We just worked on how the muscles around the shoulder pull in and hold. Shoulder blade can move and should move. Thinking about this shoulder blade, scoop the lower edge of the shoulder blade, the pointy part, up and under the ribs. So there's kind of a curling under of that lower shoulder blade up under the ribs. This top arm doesn't matter. I'm going to put it on my hip. That's where I like it. Now work on aligning the hips so that they're not tipped back and they're not scooped too far forward. They're right up and over that knee. So the 2 hip bones, I guess the 2 pelvic bones would be more appropriate, are aligned with each other. All right, now I want you to play around. Do you push all your weight into the knee, into the hand, or into that foot? Or is it evenly distributed? The purpose of this pose is to strengthen around the sides of the waist. So when in doubt, spine long, hips hinge. When in doubt. 3 breaths. Lengthen the spine. Keep deconstructing. Are you pushing the foot? 1 more breath. Are you pushing into the knee? Then come back. Let's try the other side. So this one knee spins out, the legs turns, you turn onto your side, spin the hips, extend the other leg so that you're in one flat plane. Bring this hand so it's under the shoulder, look down, make sure that it's under there. Integrate the arm into the shoulder socket, pull the shoulder blade down, scoop the under part of the shoulder blade into the ribs. So there's like this little squeezing of that low shoulder blade to rib cage connection. Top arm to me right now doesn't matter. Align the hips so that they're not flexed forward or back. No bucket curling one way or the other. Everything is flat. Head is in line with the spine, as always. Now I want you to deconstruct. Where is your weight distributed? Remember what Iyengar said. I'm going to turn the other way so I can speak to you. Iyengar said, hold on, let me get back in pose here. Owing to the faulty method of standing and not distributing our weight evenly, so evenly right now would be hand, knee, foot, we acquire specific deformities. 2 more breaths. I'm going to push this foot down more. That foot is like not doing what it's supposed to be doing. Come all the way back to hands and knees. Let's practice now lifting off into downward dog. So hands, maybe hands, maybe knuckles, maybe blocks. We're about to try a couple different versions of downward dog. Turn the toes, brace the abdominals, integrate the shoulders, lift up, push back. All right, first modification for downward dog is just this. Just keep the knees bent, but do push far back. Try to get the arms and the spine integrated and holding. Legs are usually easier to move about. Lift the heels up off the floor. A lot of modifications have to do with putting, blanket underneath there. Not so much into that. And then come back down. Let's try this again. Try putting your hands on the blocks. Now, make sure your blocks are on like a sticky surface, not on your freshly waxed floor, right? And then lift up. If your knees are bent, leave them bent, but do push your hips back. So your downward dog might look more like a crouching tiger, and that's okay. Remember, your first thing to modify is just don't do it. The second thing is to do it halfway. And I like to think about I'm doing this halfway. Another thing you can try here is to rock your pelvis forward and rock your pelvis backward a few times. Because finding that neutral, sort of straight spine isn't always obvious. So we're deconstructing the poses and modifying the poses until we find that we feel anchored and light at the same time. Remember, the overarching goal is union. So now neutral spine is somewhere between extension and flexion. 2 more breaths. Inhale. Exhale. Again. And then come down. Let's grab that strap. What did I do with my strap? I can do this in a kneeling position. This does not bother my knees. If it bothers your knees, stand up or sit in a chair. So this doesn't have anything to do with the lower body. Take the strap behind the body. Hold the strap behind your back. I'm going to start out turning my thumbs out. And then give the strap a good pull. Pull, pull, pull. Keep pulling. Keep pulling. Right now, don't really do anything else but pull. Now do. Work on that spin of the shoulder blade. Down and back and scooped under. Remember, we were just working on that, so work on that again. Now work on co-contracting the abdominals. Remember, the outcome of all of these poses are really determined by the structure and the function of the joint. So we have to heal and reconnect the joints so that we can do the pose. We'll never, ever, ever get into that flying pigeon. I'll show it to you someday. Flying pigeon. Until all the joints are really strong and well trained. It doesn't happen the other way around. 2 slow breaths. Inhale. Exhale. Keep illuminating how you're co-contracting all of the joints. And exhale. Let's release that strap. So that was one way to practice that shoulder integration while stretching. Come all the way down to the belly. Keep flipping the wrong way. Come up into Sphinx Pose. So elbows under shoulders, tail, that means your legs, together and long. Now practice that shoulder opening again. The thing we just did with the strap behind the body. Remember, we rolled it open, scooped the shoulder blade up under the ribs, and that it's scooping underneath the heart and pushing the heart forward and up. All right, I'm going to engage the lower belly to support the low back. Now lengthen the back of the neck, almost like you're looking down, I guess is a way to think of it. Then close your eyes all the way down. Keep squeezing the arm bones in towards each other like we did before. Sphinx Pose is always an option. I'm not a fan of upward dog at all. Cobra sometimes, but Sphinx is always an option. Watch how your breath intermingles with the tissue. The tissues adapt because of loads, because of angles, because of forces. The tissue will change. That's a good thing. That's a very good thing. 2. Come all the way down. I'm going to say keep your hands kind of under your chin. Squeeze the leg bones together. Give me a second to get them there. Then try lifting the legs and try lifting the upper body. Keep the spine long. All right, this is a really good way of strengthening the low back. And it's a very safe way. A lot of times we do these downward dogs. We'll do it. And you'll see how important it is to train the muscles that support the joint. How well a joint moves is really a function of how well the muscle is trained around it. So there's not like a pill or an injection or something that you can get to make that happen. It's this. It's doing this over and over with the mind residing right in that muscular coordinated event. 2. And I say, how are you doing? How is your breath? Release. Let's make our way into that downward dog again. So I want you to choose a version of downward dog that works for you. When in doubt, spine long, hips hinge. When in doubt, head aligned with the spine. But in my head feeling, okay, let's hang the head down now. That is the downward dog position. Anyway, balance on your right foot. What? Shift the load over to your right foot. Try lifting your left. That's all for now. Press your left arm, elbow, whatever's on the floor, down. So now there's a diagonal between your right foot and your left hand, your left arm. Try lifting your right hand and see if you can balance. Give this a whirl. This is a good time for me to ask, how is your breath? And come down. Let's try the other side. Left foot pushes down. Give that a second. Shift your weight to your left foot. Lift your right foot. Push down into your right arm, hand, elbow, whatever that is. Balance for a moment. Get that diagonal awake. And then lift the left hand. Boy, this very much is like the game Twister, isn't it? Give this a whirl. See if you can figure this out. What was your expectation when you lifted your hand, and then what actually happened? And then come down. Let's come down to the knees. Do some cat and cow. So now with your eyes closed, breathe waves through your spine. We all are healing from injuries and trauma, and we all have limitations, like the body just already is what it is. So discern what actions are helping heal from injuries, trauma, and the limitations, and what actions are just your ego forcing you into something. So svadhyaya, sva means self, adhyaya means study or lesson. Svadhyaya is a self-study. It's one of the principles of the niyamas, one of the observations that we must learn before we ever do asana, that's poses. So svadhyaya is just the practice of self-study. You don't ever move, you don't even have to breathe to do it. You're just studying your own actions. 2, so I am asking you to breathe here. And 1. Let's try that downward dog one more time. This time, take the block. Put it between the thighs. So now you know what to do. Lift off with the block. All right, I want you to find your expression of downward dog, but with the block. And then answer the question to yourself, what has changed? What does the block do? Where is there pressure points or something? Where are there contraction points? Where is there heaviness? Where is there an anchor? Is your spine neutral? Is your head doing what you want it to do? Remember, we're gathering and supporting the joints so the joints can be healthy. 3 breaths. So question as you deconstruct the pose, as you question and deconstruct your thoughts, actions, feelings, your motives. And 1. Release down. Let's come back onto the back. Go slow. Watch your transition. Once you get there, hug the knees into the chest. Close your eyes. I want to spend a few minutes before Shavasana, so if you want to kick one leg up and use a strap and pull that foot in, or if you like to twist over to one side, or bring the soles of the feet together, there's many options. Wherever you feel, you can just hold. As you're holding, I just said svadhyaya. Svadhyaya is one word. Svadhyaya. Self-study or lesson. The self is the thing that's concerned with survival. The me, the ego. It judges, it fears, and it doubts. It gives you a lot to worry about. But the goal in yoga, the goal of svadhyaya, is chitta vritti. That means to calm the fluctuations of the mind. Those fluctuations come about because of worry and fear and doubt. So calm the fluctuations of the mind. The discipline that we have acquired from doing the asana, the poses, and the pranayama, the breath discipline. The discipline is now applied to our real world actions. Slow, steady breath is guiding chitta vritti. Chitta vritti. Calm the fluctuations of the mind. Discern what actions, thoughts, feelings are just a function of the ego. The ego is just concerned with keeping you safe and surviving. That's okay. That's not the wrong thing. And what actions are helping unfold your highest nature. Let's come all the way into Shavasana now. Shavasana. Shava is body, Shava. Asana is pose. So lay down as a body. Again. And again. I'm going to do 3 more breaths. At the end of the 3 breaths, All will be silent and abundant. Inhale. Exhale, 1. Inhale. Exhale, 2. Inhale. Exhale, 3. Soak up this quiet moment. Scan the body one more time. Shoulders, neck, jaw, and head feel light. Begin to roll to your side. Open your eyes. Push all the way up. Coming back up and into Sukha. Sukha means sweet. Asana, place. Into your sweet place. Bring the palms together. Anjali Mudra. It's a hand gesture of a request for connectedness and peacefulness. Inhale, reach up, soak up. Exhale, bring everything back to that unity that you seek, or you and I come back together. Namaste. I bow to you.